Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. The Outdoor Adventure Series celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our guest today is Bernie Verwiel. Bernie is the Senior Manager, Partner Relations at Covac Global. His responsibilities include creating partnerships with travel agencies, tour operators, and companies to add Covac Global services to their travel assistance portfolios. Bernie, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast.
Howard, it is a pleasure to be here and to be talking with you and your audience.
Fantastic. And for our audience, in this whole spirit of disclosure, Bernie is a friend of mine. I know him from my days back in Chicago through some of the coaching work that I do. Bernie is also, and hopefully he'll tell us a little bit about this, share some of his stories. He leads visitors to Chicago on tours of the city. And we were just kind of exchanging some information lately about what are we up to. And Bernie was sharing more about Covac Global, and since this is the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, I thought, well, let's have Bernie on the show so we can share a little bit about Covac Global. Before we do that, Bernie, I'm going to let you start talking in just a minute. Uh,
Sounds good.
Tell us a little bit about your background, and because some of the work that you've been doing that has led up to you being at Covac Global, and what value you're adding as responsibility for partner relations. What's that all mean?
Yeah, well, sure, Howard. Well, first and foremost, I am very happily married and live on the north side of Chicago. I live in the Lincoln Park neighborhood with my family. And I've been a sales and marketing professional through my career, first starting out selling media, selling television, and that evolved into selling digital advertising and marketing. And then that led to having my own agency for a time. And I think that's where you helped to counsel me several times on that, Howard. And thank you for your sage advice. And then that led me to do more in the area of doing event planning, meeting planning, which gave me some exposure to travel managers, to meeting and events managers. And when I was looking for a new opportunity, because in the pandemic, that industry really slowed down quite a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. And I enjoyed being in the events and travel space. So I found this opportunity through a mutual friend at Covac Global that they were expanding. They were uh, really on the move. This is going back to 2021. I love the mission that they had to help travelers that got jammed up while they were out of country. And I came on board, and it's a great company. We got a great service. And so that's kind of what led me down to where I'm at now with Covac Global.
Fantastic. Now, for our listeners, and you're going to see if you visit the YouTube channel for Outdoor Adventure Series, we're going to have about a 7 to 10 minute introduction of this episode there. You're going to see this beautiful, sleek jet behind Bernie. It's his banner photo for the Zoom call that we're on. Can you share a little bit about what is Covac Global? How did they start off? And you'd also mentioned COVID and just the nature of the work now, where people are beginning to travel across the globe, and with that travel comes a little bit of uncertainty. And as you and I are chatting, I have the Covac Global website, and you have this, I don't know what they call it, it's like the streaming banner on the website about there's something in Ukraine, Malawi, incidents in the United States. And I'm thinking, there's still a lot of worry out there and uncertainty. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about Covac Global and the range of services that they provide, and then more specifically, the travel aspects to it.
Sure. So what we provide are for travelers with peace of mind while they're out of country, while they're traveling. So whether you get sick or injured, if there's a pandemic with COVID-19, if there's a security issue, what we're really trying to provide is an umbrella of service to get you back home safely. So we really got started in 2020. Okay. So our founder and CEO is Ross Thompson. And you can find out more information about Ross as well as our entire team. If you go to the website, like how you mentioned, and then you just go to the About Us and you'll see a drop down on the team. And it really got started in 2020. Ross comes from a security and medical evacuation background. He was working with companies and with different families for these types of services. His office was in Mexico City,
Mm.
and he just recognized that there was nothing in the marketplace that was assisting travelers that contracted COVID. Okay. So he started researching it. Things kind of slowed down, as we know, in 2020. There wasn't a lot of travel going on. So he used that time to put together his company, Covac Global. Things really started to pick up in 2021. And because of what Ross did was with his network and his knowledge of evacuations, he recognized in the US, as long as you follow those CDC guidelines, which means pertaining to COVID, that as long as you are able to transport a person in a private air ambulance, because let's remember, COVID-19 is highly infectious. So you
Mhm.
can't fly on a commercial flight once you've tested positive. And as long as you are under the direction of a flight medic, you can be repatriated back to the US. And he followed those guidelines to the T. And we started doing our evacuations when travel's begun again, late 2020, early 2021. Things really started to move with the company, especially when the Delta variant hit the early summer of 2021. And then again, the Omicron that hits in early, or I should say late fall of 2021. So that's when we really saw our business pick up, and especially with our COVID-19 evacuations. And what Ross also added on to our services was medical evacuation because of what again, taking advantage of some of the new technology that's available, especially in regards to logistics. Because a way that I help to explain it, Howard, is that we're kind of like Uber. We're kind of like the black car service for Uber. And what I mean by that is that we don't own any of our air ambulance assets or our evacuation assets. We have strategic partnerships all over the world. Okay. And several in Europe and Africa, Asia, although we haven't been too busy in Asia yet because we haven't returned to normal travel there, South America. So what we do is we help coordinate these evacuations between our member and our medical evacuation partner, that team, and with our member, being in constant communication with them, letting them know when either their ground transportation to get them to the airport is going to be arriving. So we help really to coordinate the logistics for these evacuations and staying in constant contact with the member, okay, or our evacuation partner.